a shocking story out of Nashville at a Christian school. 3 adults, 3 children, I believe, one as young as 9 years old. I don't know how you do that. Point a gun and take the life of a 9-year-old child. Shot down by, well, I got to get my pronouns right because God forbid I misgender the shooter. You'll have the Ontario Human Rights Commission on my ass before you know it. But so this was, help me out here, this was originally a man who is being a female, or is it vice versa, Tamara?
I think it's now vice versa. So we're not the only ones that are confused. There seems to be some general confusion around the gender identity of this school shooter. But regardless of if it was a male to female or female to male identifier, this was a transgender identified person. They were just starting, I think, some sort of formal transition, but the details of the story, it will continue to evolve. So this is a fairly newly breaking story. So I'm sure that as more details come out, that will be clarified. But it wasn't, yeah, as this headline here reads, it was a former student of this school in Nashville, elementary Christian school, and they're discovering that this former student, made a manifesto. So this was like a premeditated, planned execution of 3 children and 3 adults, where there was maps involved, and I think some form of a note to a friend or a message to a friend. This is just a horrific story. And my thoughts go out to the families affected by this. But you see on the radical far left side of this trans debate that they're trying to flip the script here to actually be sympathizers with this school shooter. And the illusion here is that because of the the lack of gender affirming care in Tennessee. Yeah, here we have one of the activists going off. Because of the lack of gender affirming care, that is what prompted this individual, who is likely to be suffering comorbidities, as the data shows with these individuals. That is why they took to shooting up a school. The mental gymnastics needed to get to that conclusion is so disturbing, yeah, that this can be warped into some sort of sympathetic story for a school shooter when there, in my opinion, there are clear ways to address these comorbidities, these mental health comorbidities that coincide with the need to identify as another gender than what you were, I don't know, the words that they use, biologically, or that you were assigned at birth. The lack of availability of proper mental health diagnosis and mental health care for these individuals is, in my opinion, what would drive such a horrific crime to take place. And that doesn't mean that we need more gender affirming care. We need more care to actually address, assess, and deal with the mental health comorbidities that are underlying in many of these instances. So again, I'm sure as more details come out around this story, we'll find out more about that. But the issue, in my opinion, here is not that there needs to be more gender affirming care. It actually needs to be a mental health focus that's being entirely disregarded for, let's cut off your genitals and take some skin from your leg and try to mold you into having some sort of phallic male try to resemble a penis.
I couldn't agree with you more, Tamara. And, as soon as I heard about the details of the story when it was breaking, Christian school, a trans mass shooter, I said, oh, this is going to be really interesting to see how the mainstream media and the progressive left spin it. And I'll look at what Andy Nago, he tweeted out. a statement from a radical trans activist group called the Trans Resistance Network, where they put out a statement that it's mourning the death of the Nashville Christian school mass shooter. Yeah, you heard me right. Not the 6 innocent victims, folks, but the trans mass shooter. That's what the Trans Resistance Network is concerned about. I couldn't agree with you more about mental health issues. I've met some of these trans people, Tamara, and I think once upon a time they would be institutionalized. And now, what do we have? We have, this is the new civil rights banner that we're supposed to get behind. We have less than 1% of a percent of a percent of a percent of a percent of a community demanding we change all the rules so that a biological male like Leah Thomas can swim and cream the biological females in the swimming pool. We have biological men gaming the system to get out of a male penitentiary and do their time in the female penitentiary, which is kind of like incarcerating the fox with the hens in the chicken coop. And God forbid anyone speaks out against this insanity. That's right, that's what I said, insanity. If you are a biological person, a male or a female, and you believe you're the opposite sex, you need a psychiatrist. You don't need surgery. You don't need hormones. That's what you need. And yet society, Tamara, is bending over backwards to accommodate this lunatic fringe that, like I said, when you look at the mass population of people on this planet, it's not even a fraction of a scintilla of 1%. And then you see this, you see somebody going to bat for the shooter as opposed to the 6 innocent victims. This is beyond the pale, my friend.
Yeah, and I want to go back to Andy Ngo's tweet as well, because he highlights in there some really concerning verbiage from that press release where they say hate has consequences. So they're essentially validating this unfolding, this absolutely like unfathomable unfolding of events on these poor innocent children. And coming back to the fact that hate apparently has consequences, like you can go in and shoot up a school because you maybe couldn't access gender affirming care. And I haven't looked into the nitty gritty on the laws around in Tennessee, but I assume it's primarily to protect children.
That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.